This is lesson 2-3b. We are going to be interpreting absolute value and comparing absolute value. So before we even get started on this first question here, I want us to remember what absolute value is. Absolute value is how far away a number is from zero, the distance from a point to zero. So let's say I have a point here and it's at 3. So I would say to you, what is the absolute value of 3? Well, we have to remember that the absolute value, or the distance from 0, is always positive. So what is the distance from 0 to 3? 1, 2, 3. The absolute value of 3 will be 3. Well, now I can say the same thing. I can say, what's the absolute value of -3? So if I ask you, what's the absolute value of -3, we have to remember that absolute value is always positive. What's the distance from 0 to -3? The distance from 0 to -3 would be 1, 2, 3. So the distance from 0 to 3 is 3, and the distance from 0 to -3 is 3. So both 3 and -3 are the same distance from 0. So now let's start looking at this first question. Example 3 says, negative numbers sometimes represent debts. Debt just means if there's like a negative amount of money, if you owe money. So Yasmin is a business owner. The table shows 3 account balances that represent her gallery's debts. Part A says which account has the least balance. Well, the least balance is going to be like the least amount of money. So if you owe a lot of money, if you're in a lot of debt, that's going to be having the least balance. And part B, which account has the greatest debt? So let's look at these accounts here. Account A has a balance of -$35.42. So I want to find out, how far is this below zero? What's the absolute value of -$35.42? The absolute value would be $35.42. So -$35.42 is $35.42 away from zero. B has a balance of -$50.99. So what is the absolute value of $50.99? It will be $50.99, because remember, absolute value is always positive. We're talking about a distance from zero. Distance is going to be positive. So now C, let's find out, how far is -$12.75 away from zero? What's the absolute value? The absolute value will be $12.75. So we can use this information and plot it on a number line. Let's just estimate here. If I want to estimate where each of these points are going to be, so you should be sketching this in your notebook. I'm going to have 0. Well, all of these accounts are going to be going to the left. So if I'm traveling from 0, I can just estimate here. 10, 20. Actually, I'm not even going to do that, because we don't even have to estimate all of that. We can just estimate where the points are. So which point is going to be closest to 0? Which point should I put about here? It's going to be account C, -$12.75. What's going to be the next account? A, -$35.42. Notice we're traveling to the left of 0. The further left you go, the numbers seem like they're going up, but it's really, the amounts are getting smaller because it's more negative. And then we'll have account B, which is at -$50.99. And the book has this already put on a number line for us. So they made the scale of their number line here 5. From 0, it goes to -5. So the scale of their number line here is 5. And you can see where each of those points are on the number line. So now let's answer these questions. Which accounts have the least balance? Well, the least balance is going to be the number furthest to the left. So the least balance is going to be this -50.99. That's account A. And which account has the greatest debt? Again, that's going to be the account furthest to the left. So that's also going to be account A. Now let's look at this try it question. A bank has 2 customers with overdrawn accounts. That just means they have negative amounts of money in there. They took out more money than they have. Which balance is the greater number? Which balance is the lesser amount owed? So I think the best way to solve this would be to put these 2 numbers on a number line. If we have 0 and we have to estimate where each of these negative numbers are going to be. Well, I can estimate, okay, I'm going to count by tens. -10, -20, -30. Between what 2 whole numbers is -$19.45 going to be? So if I'm traveling from 0, let's count. Where would -10 be? Well, -19 be? Well, I have -10. If I go all the way to -20, that's too far. So I'd have to stop before -20, right around here, would be that -19.45. And now where will between what 2 integers is -23.76 going to be on our number line? Because we're just estimating here. So moving to the left, I'm going to go to -10, -20. Okay, I have to go to -23. So about 3 more than -23, right about there, is going to be my -23.76. So now I have to look at these questions. Which balance is the greater number? Okay, well, which balance is more to the right? That's going to be my greater number. And since they're both negative, it's going to be it's always going to be the number on the number towards the right is going to be the greater number. So, which balance is the greater number? $19.45. Which balance is the lesser amount owed? Also $-19.45. Because if I owe $19, that is owing less money than if I was to owe $23. Okay, now I just want us to practice comparing absolute values. So I'm going to rewrite number 36 for us a little bit bigger. That way we can see it. So for number 36, it says to order the numbers from least to greatest. So we're going to have to order the absolute value of -6. And notice how I'm rewriting all of these. This is what you should be doing also. Rewrite these, please, in your notebook. The absolute value of -4. The absolute value of 11. And then the absolute value of 0. So let's find the absolute value of each of these numbers. Well, what is the absolute value of -6? Absolute value is always positive, so the absolute value of -6 would be 6. What's the absolute value of -4? 4. The absolute value of 11 is 11. And the absolute value of 0 is 0. So we found what is the distance from 0 to each of these points, each of these values, and we wrote it as the positive number. So now to finish this up, we're going to order the numbers from least to greatest. Okay, so we're looking at our orange absolute values here. Which one is least? Least is going to be the absolute value of 0. So now I'm going to rewrite my answer using the original numbers. And let's cross it off because we used it. Going from least to greatest, what is the next smallest? It will be the absolute value of -4. Because the absolute value of -4 is 4. Cross it off, we used it. What's going to be next? Next least is -6, the absolute value of -6, which is 6. And then the greatest will be the absolute value of 11, because the absolute value of 11 is 11. So in order to order these from least to greatest, you must rewrite the problem and then rewrite each of those absolute values.